Chicken Genius said last week if Tesla stock breaks the pivot line, then the price target is $69. And that pivot line was $213. And Tesla stock closed under that on Friday and Monday. And while sometimes Chicken Genius likes to troll, I don't think he's trolling about his price target here. It appears to me that he is actually serious about his $69 price target. And while Chicken Genius did get out of Tesla stock at a relatively high price, he did not call the bottom. In fact, on December 27th, then Tesla stock was very close to the bottom. He said, this is not the bottom of Tesla stock. Durable bottoms, you will see a phase of consolidation. And here was me on December 27th, excited to buy a lot more Tesla stock. If we actually go to $69, I will be so excited to buy so much more Tesla stock at such preposterously low prices. Keep in mind that last year, one major reason why Tesla stock went down so much was because Elon Musk just kept on selling and selling and selling more Tesla stock. But he's not selling anymore. And Elon is fairly focused on Tesla, unlike last year at the end of the year. If we have a terribly big recession, then yeah, we could go really low. But if there's no major recession and Elon does not sell more Tesla stock, I will be stunned, shocked, astounded, amazed, astonished, startled by this buying opportunity. You will certainly not see me complaining about it. You will just see me buying more Tesla stock. And I don't want to be out of Tesla stock when Tesla rallies like this the next time. Imagine selling right here, hoping that Tesla stock will go down. And then it does go down a little bit, but you hope, oh, it will go down even cheaper. And then you never buy back in. That actually happened to many people, and I feel sorry for them. So I'm buying more Tesla stock. This is pretty big news. General Motors Cruise robotaxi unit is being suspended by the California Department of Motor Vehicles from operating driverless vehicles in the state, effective immediately. When there is an unreasonable risk to public safety, the DMV can immediately suspend or revoke permits, the regulator said. It added that this decision does not impact the company's permit for testing with a safety driver. But we know that drivers are expensive, so this is gonna cost GM some significant money. There's not much information about all of this, but the move comes after a string of high-profile accidents in San Francisco involving fire trucks and pedestrians. Brett Winton from ARK Invest says that over the first 9 months of the year, Cruise added roughly 360 autonomous taxis to its fleet and spent $50 million on property. It's fair to assume, perhaps, that the cost basis to Cruise of a sensor and compute-equipped Bolt is $140,000. Also, let's not forget that the MSRP of the Bolt is just $26,500. We got some news from India. Tesla must oblige to certain non-negotiables before entering India to sell its vehicles, the Indian Minister for Road Transport and Highways said. Last week, rumors of potential import duty reductions circulated in India, but the minister does not believe the government will budge on import duties and is maintaining that companies like Tesla must agree to locally manufacture first. Yahoo reported that the minister is still adamant on this point. I am not quite sure what to make of this, but remember the governor of the state where Tesla is going to build the factory in Mexico? Well, he just announced that he wants to resign as the governor, but that's because he wants to be the president. From a Tesla perspective, it's mostly good, says Sawyer, because the governor and Tesla have a good relationship. But what if the governor that replaces him would be negative about Tesla? Then I don't think it would be good. I think probably, perhaps, local support is more important than federal support. The good thing for Tesla about all of this is that in a letter to local lawmakers, the governor asked for a 6-month leave of absence from his term, which is not scheduled to end until 2027. And it doesn't really seem to me, after doing maybe 2 minutes of research, that he's very likely to win the race. So if he loses, it seems to me that he would just go back to being a governor until 2027. And that seems to be probably the most likely outcome. I found this poll, and our governor only has, according to this poll, only a 7% chance of winning. But of course, this could change drastically. We still have a whole year, I think, until the election. Okay, not quite a whole year. The elections will be held on June 2nd. As Tesla puts brakes on Cybertruck, Rivian speeds ahead. Tesla putting brakes on Cybertruck. They just announced that they are releasing it on November 30th. Musk's decidedly pessimistic comments boil down to this: expect only a trickle of trucks from the Austin, Texas factory for the next year or so. Competitors should be happy. Now, if you are a journalist and you report facts, do you include things like competitors should be happy, or do you just state facts and you let everyone come to their own conclusions? It's okay to have an opinion piece, of course, but that is very different from journalism. And I am not so sure that it's entirely fair to write, it's a small trickle. It's going to be at least tens of thousands of Cybertrucks coming out from the factory next year based on Elon's comments. And the current guidance is to basically have about 250,000 in capacity. Elon got challenged by an analyst saying that, oh, so you're saying it's going to take 3 years, but Elon responded to that by saying it's maybe 18 months. Because this year is sort of almost over already. Gary Black just made a prediction. If Elon is open to advertising to accelerate EV adoption, he is by definition less likely to cut Tesla prices further. If price cuts were working, he wouldn't consider doing advertising. I expect Tesla auto gross margins, excluding regulatory credits, to bottom in Q4 at 16.2% and then recover to 17% in 2024, behind Cybertruck and a more expensive Model 3 Highland. It of course depends highly on how Tesla advertises. If Tesla has clever advertising, then demand will really pick up. But if it's just really boring, plain advertising, just let's say a picture of the car saying buy our car, that's a bit more less promising. It would still work, but I want to see ads like this. I want to see creative ads. Ads that excite people, ads that create emotion, while at the same time educating the consumer. We got delivery numbers from China based on the insurance data. The number is 8,100, still a bit low, but that's okay because it's still the beginning of the quarter and Tesla is exporting pretty much every single Model 3, so it's all right. And the market understands this. The stock was actually up even more early in the morning, and if the numbers from China are bad, usually the stock gets punished. If the Model 3 ramp goes really smoothly, this still could turn into a record quarter in China. James is actually pretty positive about this. Yes, we will soon see a few very big weeks to catch up from Model 3. Early quarter, not very relevant. Same for Europe. There's going to be a bigger delivery wave this quarter than normal. This is actually important. Although Tesla sales in Europe are trending down for the third consecutive quarter, Tesla was able to slightly increase its market share in Q3. So even though Tesla did not have record quarters in Europe in terms of how many cars Tesla delivered, its market share is increasing, which I see as a positive sign overall. While EV market share is not the most important thing, I think it is not too bad of an idea to keep an eye on that number. As long as you remember that many other EVs that are sold in the market are less expensive than Tesla vehicles, meaning that whatever market share number you see, especially in China, the actual number eventually will be higher once Tesla introduces cheaper vehicles, because there are segments that Tesla does not even compete in yet. But the market share number is based on all of the segments. And yet, despite that, we see increasing market share numbers in Europe. And Tesla's EV market share in Europe is actually sort of in line with overall battery electric vehicle market share in Europe. While this is good news, it's not as good as many people actually think it is. All new Model 3s and Ys and some Model S's are now eligible for a $2,500 rebate in Texas. The reason why I say it's not as good as you may think it is because there is a cap of 2,000 applicants. So if you live in Texas and you are thinking about buying a Tesla, get one right now so you can grab that rebate. Also, did you know that Tesla is still not legally allowed to sell their vehicles directly to Texans due to the state's ban of direct vehicle sales? And that Tesla was requesting as little as $30,000 per charger, while others were asking for the maximum $150,000 allowed under the program to build chargers in Texas. So while this is a good first move in Texas, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think Tesla having the headquarters over there helps with that. The new Model 3 has arrived in Italy. I love Italy. I've been on vacation there many, many times. Venice is probably one of my favorite places in the whole world. Tesla needs to deliver an average of 5,173 cars per day in Q4 to hit their 1.8 million delivery target for 2023. That would be an all-time quarterly delivery record. Tesla reiterated their 1.8 million target last week, so they are clearly confident Q4 will be good. The question is, how good will it be? And the answer to that question is, in 2030, I won't really care. Just like how I don't care right now how terribly difficult the Model 3 ramp was in the beginning, and that was a very difficult time for Tesla. This is actually good news for us Tesla stock investors, because when other companies that Elon owns do well, he does not need to spend all that much time on these other companies, and also he's less likely to sell Tesla stock because he can just cash out some money from these other companies. Elon Musk's The Boring Company is now valued at $7 billion, up from $5.7 billion. I would love Elon to take some of his companies public so that we can invest in all of his other companies as well. I am particularly interested in SpaceX and X. Oh wow, Ford increases its EV losses even further by offering up to $13,000 discounts for the 2023 Mustang Mach-E. I test drove it, I wasn't really that impressed. A Tesla is quite a bit better. There's an article in which Adam Jonas, the analyst from Morgan Stanley, was featured, and Gary Black says that it looks like he is the #1 ranked auto analyst in 2023. But too bad that Tesla is not just a car company. Here's one of the biggest DJs in the whole world posting a picture of him in the Cybertruck. You know, there are going to be quite a few music videos created with the Cybertruck. That is going to bring a lot of eyeballs to Tesla. After I'm done filming, I will probably play a few of his songs. What in the world is this? So this car hides it's like a drone, basically. It has 4 of these blades to make it fly, I guess. Certainly an interesting concept that will produce pretty much no sales. They should instead focus on making better EVs. There's a new, very short piece from ARK Invest about Tesla. During Tesla's earnings call last week, CEO Elon Musk warned investors that although the Cybertruck would debut commercially on November 30th, scaling volume production would be enormously challenging. Tesla has lots of experience with difficult volume production ramps. The Model X was notoriously over-engineered, and the ramp of the Model 3 was nothing short of production hell. Heralded initially for promising a simple, cost-effective design, the Cybertruck now seems to be facing manufacturing complexity that is surprising investors. With parts unlike those in any other Tesla model, its costs are likely to surprise on the high side of expectations in the short term. But to make serious progress, you have to sometimes do that. For example, today I made a change in how I filmed the videos. It made today's shoot quite a bit longer, but every day after tomorrow, it's actually going to be a little bit faster, and within maybe a month or so, overall, it will be clear that this was the right choice, but I lost some time today. But I will make up for it in the next months. The same thing is going to happen to the Cybertruck. It's just the time frames are quite a bit longer. Adding to the downbeat call, Musk expressed concern that the rapid rise in interest during the past 18 months has hurt consumer purchasing power for big ticket items. Indeed, 60+ day auto loan delinquencies have surpassed their 2008 and 2009 recession highs, driven by subprime borrowers. That sounds a bit scary. Notwithstanding its current growing pains, we continue to believe that Tesla is years ahead of the competition in producing cost-effective, performant electric vehicles. It also is developing one of the world's most powerful supercomputers that, combined with its seemingly insurmountable advantage in real-world driving data, should enable autonomous driving. In our view, Tesla will continue to lead the world into autonomous electric transportation. GM's posted its earnings, and actually they beat a lot of the estimates. They definitely beat the EPS estimate, which was at $1.84, but the actual came in at $2.28, and the same goes for a lot of these other numbers, and James says something high interest rates something. He's referring to Elon complaining about high interest rates, and yet GM is selling all of these vehicles and making all of this money. However, it is important to understand that GM sells to dealers, and dealers can't really say no. In other words, manufacturers will have delay of down earnings versus Tesla because of the buffer with the dealership network, plus starting the year with zero inventory at dealers. GM also withdrew full year profit guidance because of the strike, and it is adjusting to slower near-term growth. Closing arguments are set to begin today in the first US trial over allegations that Tesla's autopilot driver assistant feature led to a death, and its results could help shape similar cases across the country. So this one is somewhat important. The jury trial in a California state court featured testimony from one Tesla employee about autopilot that the company repeatedly asked to be kept hidden from the public, but a judge refused. Nothing came out of previous cases, so I would expect this one to be no different. Things are getting worse for GM. The union just struck this Texas assembly plant that builds full-size SUVs. And it's 5,000 people that are joining the strike. The CEO, Mary Barra, said the automaker will slow its electric vehicle strategy to put profits ahead of sales targets. The UAW strike has cost GM $200 million in Q3 and $600 million so far in Q4. And it appears that it will only get worse before it gets better. But GM basically is prioritizing relatively short-term profits over long-term survival because they are postponing their EV production. That doesn't sound like good leadership to me. In fact, GM is abandoning a goal of building 400,000 EVs from 2022 through mid-2024. Barra said GM has work to do to hit its low to mid-single digit earnings before interest and taxes margin target by 2025. If their EV strategy wasn't bad enough, their LiDAR strategy with autonomous is also not really going to help them long term. GM said today losses at its Cruise robotaxi unit widened to $732 million in Q3 versus $500 million in Q3 of 2022. Cruise has now lost over $1.9 billion year to date. In other words, the more you scale, the more you lose. Supposedly, they are already charging for the rides, but the losses somehow got bigger anyway. UAW is masking GM's failures, and GM is leaning hard into it, but we know exactly what's happening here. GM produced only 348 EVs per day in Q3. Tesla produces a lot more than 10 times that. V4 expansion continues. We have 12 new stalls that just opened in France. Orzad pointed out something really funny. It's interesting that GM's EV business is super small, yet their Q3 earnings call is predominantly driven by the EV discussion, and they're also postponing their EV targets. Tesla says it wants to start expanding its Giga Berlin factory in the first half of 2024. Supposedly there is no demand, so why would Tesla do this? This was announced by Tesla representatives on the sidelines of a public debate on the expansion plans. Further expansion, of course, signals that there is more demand. Multi-billionaire all-in Tesla stock investor just checked out the refresh Model 3, and judging by his smile, he is very happy. A Cybertruck was spotted at Giga Nevada, and it attracted a crowd. I can't wait to actually see it in person for the first time. Remember that report about the Tesla Model 3 being the least stolen vehicle in the US? Well, turns out maybe it's because demand is so low, people won't even steal them. I'm surprised how come Gordon Johnson has not made that comment yet. And I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters. By joining my Patreon, you will get access to how much I think it is fair to pay per Tesla share each year between 2023 and 2033. If you sign up for the investor tier of support, you will also get my valuation model of Tesla stock with a 45-minute video walkthrough. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching that discussion about the future with Elon Musk, watch this one first. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.